Have you ever stopped to think how different your life would be if you had been born on the other side of the planet, or even in a neighboring country, or even just a different ethnic group within your own town? Perhaps you would have been raised to vote differently in elections, to be accustomed to eating different food, perform different family rituals, and so on. You can think of many cultural differences between yourself and other people. Among those should pretty obviously be also your religious beliefs, as well as your attitude towards other paranormal or superstitious claims. Developmental psychologists use the term primary socialization to refer to how children learn and are taught such cultural things within their immediate family, especially by their parents. Secondary socialization has to do with the influence of other people a little later in the child's life, when they may have teachers and other adults, but especially their peers, to learn from. There are many ways in which culture and the social groups we belong to influence our beliefs, including beliefs about the paranormal. That is what this video is about, so if you're interested in such things, keep watching. My name is Jouni Vilkka and this is TFF, Teacher from Finland. Don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. It is obvious to anyone who happens to think about it, but also has been verified by researchers, that religious belief is mostly influenced by one's parents. The same is probably the case with other paranormal beliefs. But as children grow older, other people, and especially the media, begin to influence them more than their parents. There is one way, though, in which the parents influence a person that no one else can, and that is through genetic inheritance. Many of the personality traits and neurological features that make an individual susceptible to paranormal beliefs are, at least partially, influenced by genetics. It does not mean that a paranormal belief would be inherited genetically, of course, but rather that genetics explains a certain percentage of the variation in the trait. Together with the upbringing they provide, it seems plausible to me that one's parents play a big part in shaping one's belief system. Friends and peer groups, like a sports team one is a member of, can probably influence one's beliefs, or at least behavior. It may be that some sort of superstitious beliefs or even rituals might be expected, almost required in some situations. French and Stone discuss an experiment on the influence of one's friends on how one expresses opinions about the paranormal. If a believing peer, actually a confederate of the experimenters, was present, the test subjects expressed their belief in such things more strongly than without them being present. People usually also befriend like-minded people or prefer to spend time with those who think sufficiently similarly and believe more or less the same things. We also often overestimate how much others agree with us. This is called the false consensus effect. For example, someone who believes in ghosts is likely to think that such a belief is common. Their experience may seem to confirm this, but for social reasons. It is thought that disagreeing with someone is a challenge, or at least impolite, which may lead you to mistakenly think that others around you who hear your opinions on things agree with you. This might make you believe those things more strongly because of this mistaken validation. This is one reason to speak up when hearing doubtful claims. By the way, have you done so, and what was the reaction? Let me know in the comments below. Sometimes people believe in the paranormal because they have been convinced by a professional performer, such as an alleged psychic, fortune teller, or faith healer. These professionals may use trickery, like magicians, or even use technology to make it seem as if they are accessing a supernatural source of information. One great example of this is the story of how James Randi and others caught the so-called faith healer Peter Popov, who was using a concealed radio receiver to get information about the people he was talking to. This enabled him to make it seem as if he was channeling God himself, or herself in this case. When someone is using information the audience is unaware they have, in order to trick the audience into believing that something magical is happening, they are using hot reading. A more common trick is called cold reading. This is a method where the so-called psychic reads the body language, comments, and any other clues from their audience to guide them to say the right things. They start with general and vague statements and then either narrow down the statements or steer away from them depending on the reactions they get. They can also make use of the fact that many apparently unique pieces of information are actually rather common. For example, lots of people have back pain and many have lived in a house with a cat. They might have a piece of jewelry from a deceased person or used to have longer hair. These simple facts can easily be used by a skillful actor to convince the uncritical into believing in paranormal powers. French and Stone point out that not only do people waste some money on fraudulent psychics, but those psychics can also manipulate the marks into becoming dependent on them, coming back again and again, instead of helping them become independent. They often try to prevent their clients from seeking advice from other people while fleecing the gullible. Besides our culture in general, we are also influenced by mass media. It makes sense for psychologists to study how depictions of the paranormal in the media affect our beliefs. French and Stone explain that especially vivid, recent depictions seem to influence how people assess the credibility of new paranormal claims. Even if scientific explanations for events are given in a documentary that discusses alleged paranormal phenomena, those explanations, being more cognitively demanding than the vague paranormal explanations, are not able to counter the effect of the paranormal claims on the beliefs of the viewers. Given that there seems to be a much greater market for sensational claims, like those involving paranormal phenomena, than there is for their critical evaluation, the media is going to be filled with the former and not the latter. Even the way we tell stories to each other has a way of influencing belief, French and Stone point out. We tend to retell stories we've been told, and so we might say that this happened to a friend of mine, although that is how the story was passed on to us earlier. So the original experiencer, if there even was one, is not actually our friend, but a friend of a friend of a friend many times over. But we are more likely to believe the story if it allegedly happened to a friend. And we simplify the stories we tell, even when we don't mean to, and when we talk about our own experiences. We do it at least partially because we are telling a story, and there are conventions to telling stories, and they influence how we tell them. We focus on what we think is important, but especially to assess the truth of a claim, such stories can be pretty useless. For from the point of view of an investigator of the claim, the actually crucial information might be something we've overlooked. It takes real investigative work to look into claims, especially those about the paranormal. So if you are interested in such things, you should find out how the real investigators do it. The magazine Skeptical Inquirer is a good start, and books by such investigators as Joe Nickell and Benjamin Radford should be very instructive. I will discuss social psychology and cultural studies in their own series eventually, and will probably discuss weird beliefs, and will certainly discuss religions then, but this should be enough for now. The next video will be about what evolutionary psychology has to say about paranormal beliefs. See you then. If you wish to support my channel, please click thumbs up, subscribe and share my videos. Any comments on the videos would also be welcome.